It's good when absolutely nothing has happened in the past 24 hours. Just kidding.
Let's just reconvene tomorrow. I mean,
Okay, yeah, nothing to talk about. Nothing big. Only Q3 earnings, UK blocking the acquisition, and so let's just yeah. Anyways, Microsoft reported earnings yesterday. Revenue was $52.9 billion. Net income was $18.3 billion. They pretty much beat expectations, or at least met or superseded, but all of it, and I mean all of it, came on the cloud and Office side.
Yep.
Because the PC side hit a wall and then Humpty Dumptied.
I have yet to go through the post-earnings conference call, so I'll be writing up something about that today. But I was going through my news feed this morning, and I saw an article. I'm not going to name any names, but one of the dumbest freaking things I've ever read in my life, which said, Surface sales were down 30% in the quarter, and you should be celebrating. And I'm like, all right, I guess I have to read this now. So, clickbait headline achieved. And this is the theory. Because the PC sales were so bad, not just Surface, but elsewhere, right? OEM sales of Windows, I think, were down 28%. That's the rough consensus, high 20%, almost 30% down. That means, Brad, well, that combined with the ancillary information that there's a lot of channel inventory, is there are going to be some sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's like celebrating, like, I remember when I was a kid or like a young teenager, Coleco dropped the ColecoVision, and TI stopped selling their TI 99.4A and whatever. The Intellivision disappeared, and you could go to Child World, which was the local store at Toys R Us, and you could start buying these things really cheap. Like, celebrate, you can get this stuff really cheap. Yeah, because it's always good for the market when bad things happen, and then you can briefly buy something a little cheaper than it normally is. It's smart. That's smart thinking. Like, I mean, we also want this industry to survive, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not enough. I don't want to just save money today on one computer. I mean, what's the real net effect on this? Is there going to be more limited availability of computers? Are prices going to go up? I mean, what am I celebrating? Like this?
You're celebrating more ads in Windows.
Wow.
They got to make money somehow. They're going to do it.
That's true. And I'm imagining a not suitable for work image I would put on the article about that topic. You got to make money somehow, and it's a picture of a street corner, and I mean, yeah, you sure do, but I think we can all agree there are good ways and bad ways.
Yeah, so Microsoft officially reported Windows OEM revenue decreased 28%, device revenue decreased 30%. Interesting though, Windows commercial products and cloud services revenue increased 14%.
Yeah, I don't know how you get an increase, but I you often hear about year-ago comparables when it's bad, right? So there'll be some Xbox sales were off, like as they were actually, or PC sales, whatever it might be, and they'll say, well, yeah, but the year ago, it's a negative year-ago comparable, meaning in this case maybe the console shortage ended briefly and we sold a bunch of Xboxes, so this it's not as bad as it sounds, So I don't know what the year ago comparable is on commercial. It's kind of an interesting, like 14% is pretty good, but I bet I'd have to go back and look, and maybe I will. I'm guessing commercial and all PC. So, well, actually, I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to say there.
So other things, it says search and news advertising revenue excluding traffic acquisition costs.
I love
increased.
Thank you for highlighting that. That's
10%.
definitely going to be part of my article. I actually, in my little news story about this event, mentioned this, and I said, you know what, this is more for the analysis side. But it's fascinating to me that they gave a hard number on revenue, whatever, hard-ish, percentage number, and then mentioned cost of transaction or whatever the term was. Yeah, that's the beginning of the AI stuff started in March. That was the end of the quarter, right?
Yep.
That's what that is. That figure 3 months from now is going to be very interesting, right?
Yeah, they actually talked about, I think, CapEx costs increasing here as they build out more data centers and just load up on GPUs.
Yeah, right.
So here's another interesting thought. So when I was thinking about this yesterday, when we look at this Bing AI stuff or whatever, we typically look at it through the lens of like, oh, it's stealing market share from Google, which that is probably very fair, not discounting that. Here's the other side of it. I'm curious if Microsoft is going to be able to gain any cloud market share from AWS, because as of today, AWS has been rather quiet on what they're doing. So either they've got something germinating or they don't. But if you want AI stuff, it seems like Microsoft has a better cloud offering than AWS.
Amazon did just announce something for developers for AI.
Did they?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I can find it. But yeah, you're right. No, but they have been quiet. I mean, something called Bedrock, which is a generative AI offering for developers, and some other stuff too. It's not just that, but yeah, I mean, relative to Google and Microsoft, I mean, they've been kind of non-existent. I thought you were going to go in a different direction, which is if you gain share, but you're losing money, when do you cross a line where this is no longer acceptable, right? So obviously, short-term goal. Think about something like Windows Phone, for example. So Windows Phone actually sold in the several to tens of millions of units per quarter for some short period of time, but they weren't making any money on it, right? Mm-hmm. And so, of course, they went to low price devices. There was, we all know this, whatever happened there. But if you sell more and you're losing, are you losing more? I mean, like, where's the gain? Like, where do you
which way does it scale?
Yeah. So I think that was one of the many calculuses of the Windows Phone thing. But for this type of thing, I mean, obviously they're going to describe this as kind of an investment in the future, and the goal, look, it's inevitable, is that the price of the compute here will go down, and Microsoft's making their own processors. They're doing everything they can to do that. But how long does it take? A pretty good quarter. I mean, honestly, all things considered, I mean, I thought it was going to be worse than this.
Yeah, it was a pretty good quarter. I mean,
Yep. I mean, I'm going to be looking at this current quarter, as specifically with the cost of AI, which I don't think they're ever going to call out. Right? I mean, they'll mention it in passing, like.
They did add the word Bing Chat to their disclaimers and disclosures. So.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm going to look at this as soon as we're done here. But I'm curious to see how they describe this, or if they described it. Yeah.
And then the other fun bit of news, which relates to Xbox. So on the Xbox side, they did say in their earnings call, by the way, that they're closing in on $1 billion of service revenue inside of Xbox. So they're almost there.
Quarterly or just?
I believe quarterly, yeah.
Quarterly, must be quarterly. I mean, okay, yeah. Right. I mean, obviously.
But on that same vein, the UK CMA came out and said, nope, we're going to block the transaction. And they're doing it.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Well, thank you, Siri, for trying to answer that question. I don't know why you were turned on. Speaking of AI, that's useless. Anyways, the UK CMA is going to block the Microsoft, or is blocking the Microsoft transaction, on the sole basis of cloud gaming competition.
It's incredible.
It is.
It's incredible. This is a market that almost doesn't exist.
Right.
So from my perspective, this came out of nowhere. This was not what we were hearing, right? But I guess, like a lot of poll numbers, you never know the truth until it happens. But Microsoft's appealing. I mean, that's the least consequential part of this transaction. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. Listen, I've made the argument, because Microsoft's made the argument, that this is primarily about mobile. I mean, obviously, this will bolster their cloud gaming efforts. There's no doubt about it. But there's a kind of a wall you hit with cloud gaming. I mean, there's just, realistically speaking, not most people can't take advantages to full effect. I've been playing Xbox Cloud Gaming lately on my PC, which is wired to the router, which has a gigabit download speed, and using a wired controller. It's the lowest latency thing that can happen, and it's still not good enough. I wouldn't play Call of Duty with this thing. It's good enough for a lot of games, and whatever. I mean, single player experiences may be okay, but it just doesn't really. It's not a rip and replace. This is not. We have this now. Consoles go away. I mean, it's additive. And that shows a certain cluelessness on their part.
So I really think that Stadia shutting down, had more of an impact on this than Sony did with all their lobbying.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Sony doesn't have a direct competitor to this. You might remember, I don't know if it was during pandemic, whenever it was, but Sony at one time announced they were working with Azure.
Yep.
On a
I think they
coming
still
cloud.
are, but yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know. Look, in the same, I mean, if we just accept that this is some kind of a stupid reality, which I guess we have to, Microsoft has made certain promises related to keeping Call of Duty and perhaps other games on other platforms for X number of years. They've had literal deals with companies about that. I have a vague memory in the back of my brain of Phil Spencer or Brad Smith or somebody saying that they would do deals with Sony with regards to their cloud services, ensuring that whatever games wouldn't just be on their console, would also be on their services. But whatever. You can make that same kind of agreement, right? This is... So now all of us, at the last second, you've never mentioned cloud gaming once, but now at the last second, this is the issue. Isn't the same sort of behavioral agreement, doesn't that apply here too? Right? If
Yep.
This is like to meet the needs of the UK regulators, we have agreed to, should Sony release an imagined game service they do not currently own, we will support it, whatever it may be, with the same agreement we would give to them on the console. Like, is we seriously entering into this little bit of a fantasy land?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are. So, I don't. It's very strange. Very strange.
So Microsoft says they're going to sue, or not sue, take it to court, which is a kind of a suit, but whatever.
They got a deal, yeah.
Other interesting things are, according to Foss Patents, if this deal falls through by June 30th, Microsoft could be on the hook for $3 billion if they don't extend the agreement, which I assume that they probably will, because nobody's going to pay $70 billion for Activision at this point.
Yeah. I mean, June 30th being the end of their fiscal year and the time that they set out in the original agreement to complete
Correct.
the deal by. Yeah.
So that's got to go through. We're still waiting on the EU. The super fun one will be if the EU and the US approve this, and then the UK is sitting there like, ruh-roh.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, look, I did not expect the UK to do this, right? The manner, the reason they did it is like a further wrench and like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is what you're. I mean, it's just doesn't. I don't even know how to respond to this. It's so weird, but.
Well, think about it overnight. We'll be back tomorrow.
Stupid UK.